Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rogue Wave podcast, the frequency for all things pop culture and rogue. We talk comics, movies, TV, and pop culture with the rogues who create it every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on youtube.com/rogue matter, facebook.com/we are rogue matter, twitch.tv/we are rogue matter, and twitter.com/rogue_matter. We then take this wonderful video and turn it into an amazing audio podcast and upload it into the interwebs where all major podcasts can be downloaded. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, iHeart, you name it. We are out there. Join the movement. Go rogue, roguematter.com. I'm your host, Michael Dolce, as always, joined by my cohort in crime, the more awake than me, Hassan Godwin. How you doing, sir?
This is what the sunglasses are for. So you're not supposed to know I'm like nodding off in the middle of the show.
Yeah, no, I understand. It's a smart move.
You got to get yourself some sunglasses, man. That's how that.
Yeah.
Notice I say you don't have to perk up. You don't have to exercise. You don't have to get alert. You just get yourself some appliances, and that'll help you get through it.
I still need to do my reads and make it flawless as opposed to.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to help. I was just trying to help.
The problem is it's this end of school week. So my one daughter's out of preschool already. My son's been doing like half days, but now they are jacked up for summer. So they just keep getting up in like the middle of the night, essentially. So I'm just, it's almost as if I might as well just have another kid because we're used to just getting up at like 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, and telling them, go back to bed now. Go back to bed. But they're like jacked up. They're like ready for summer. Next week camp starts, and it's just nothing but swimming. So they'll be out like a light, and thankfully I will be back to like sleeping normally, or at least I hope. That's my hope.
We look forward to that, all of us.
I think so.
All of us here at Rogue Wave look forward to that.
Do you know what we look forward to the most, though?
Out
on the website today, we got a whole bunch of stuff. We'll start with the Badass Babes of Entertainment podcast. The latest episode just dropped right before ours. It is episode 7, interview with Danielle Eskenazi. She is an award-winning casting director with an eye for talent and a sixth sense when it comes to spotting substance beneath the surface. Over 2 decades casting films, television, theater, and commercials, Danielle has cast such known talent as David Bowie, Rosanna Arquette, and Woody Harrelson, while also launching the careers of now successful actors including Hank Azaria and Mila Jovovich. She is highly respected in the business for her creativity, integrity, and ability to draw audition-nailing performances. She's on the Rogue Matter Network. That's on Spotify, Spreaker. You can go to roguematter.com as well, too, and just click on the link and go download her podcast. It's a great show. Brenda and Melissa do a great job, so definitely check that out. And then very excited internally for the release of this book. It's been brewing underneath the, in the internal halls for a while. Which is Until I Die, #1, and that is our Rogue Matter Presents Spotlight right now. It's basically, so the cool part about that book itself, aside from really great art, and we're going to interview its creator, Jason Sterr, in our last segment today. But basically it revolves around, I don't know if legally I should even say it because, we don't want to get anybody.
Well,
it's Dan Robbo. Dan Robbo, though, looks very familiar, as does his Brat Pack quartet of. See, Brat Pack is like
no, it's close. So, but I mean, it's enough information for people to be able to know exactly what you're trying to get to.
Yeah,
right?
For his entire career, Dan Robbo has sung the songs the labels wrote, starred in the movies the studios produced, and assassinated the dictators the CIA wanted dead. After crossing paths with the most powerful man in the world, if he's going to survive, he's going to have to do things his way. Another little tip off for you.
Yes,
like
well
that.
Done. I like that art.
Artwork. I'd love to, art. We'll have Aaron bring up some artwork on screen as we.
That cover art's brilliant.
Look at There's the cover. Steve, the Dude Rude, or Steve Rude the Dude. No, it's the Dude Rude, right? I don't know if you ever met Steve Rude. Have you?
I have not met Steve Rude, the dude.
He actually, so he did the cover art, which we're showing on screen right now.
Which is brilliant. Which is really
brilliant. Yeah, no, he's an amazing artist. He was one of the very first artists that ever gave me advice in the industry. And What does that mean? It means like when I was an intern at Wizard, I was either an intern at Wizard magazine or it was like when I was first officially there. I had met him, I guess, at one of our shows and showed him my artwork, and he gave me all these like pointers and tips and like, for no reason too. I mean, he just mailed me stuff. Like he was one of like the nicest guys you'll ever meet because he's like, he mailed it to the Wizard offices and he's like, look, I looked, look, you dropped off your portfolio, blah, blah, and here's what, and he was giving me like, he drew all these tips and things for me to like, hold on to. And I've got him.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, no, he is a really awesome dude. So
yeah.
So it's a 4-issue series.
His art is, his art's impeccable. It speaks for itself. So
yeah. Well, he does the covers for all 4 issues.
Also, it's another little giveaway of exactly who these people may resemble, in the milieu, in the overall milieu. So yeah, brilliantly done. And we spoke with him, right?
Yeah, we're gonna run that in our 3rd segment today. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's an amazing guy. He really is. I enjoyed that discussion.
Well, what's funny about it too is he is ex-military. So Jason Sterr, we're talking about the writer and creator of the book. He is not ex-military. He's in the military. He's like currently in the military.
Still there.
He was about to go to Poland when Ukraine went down. So we were actually kind of one of like, it was one of those funny questions where you have to like email somebody and you're like, are you going to be able to like be on a podcast? Cause like you're busy, like, potentially fighting.
Could you put being deployed aside for us to be able to record for the, you want to talk about your comic book? I mean, isn't that more important than world security? Yeah, but and another one of these guys who's like, capable of extraordinary things, was really way down to earth and very humble, and pretty straightforward about everything. It was really a great discussion. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, and big MCU fan, which is interesting considering the this book is so like it's perfect. It's perfect, like image material almost. Like I would expect this in like an Image comic book, but they were flashing on the screen right now, and it's a lot of fun. Like I said, if you're a Pulp Fiction fan or any kind of Tarantino kind of book, there's a lot of Tarantino-esque moments in it.
The art is fantastic. The storytelling is really, really sharp. It's it's like it's a great read. It's very fast, but it's dense also, which I actually appreciate it. Like it's not like a fly by night. Oh, I got this really kooky idea. Let's put some imagery on a page and call it a comic. There's a lot of intricate storytelling in it. He put a lot of energy into his angle of the creative process of the writing. It's dense like a Bendis book.
Yes,
like those first few pages. I'm like, wow, this guy's serious. So it's a good read. The art's brilliant. The cover's brilliant. The guy is a great guy. Yeah, and I don't praise anyone. So I mean,
no, it's very true, actually.
Yeah,
like you go out of your way to not to praise people. So
yes, I do. I make sure even the people who are worthy of praise, I don't praise them. But so exactly, basically, this is really special, and I enjoyed it, and he's a great guy. So.
Yeah. So no, it's pretty awesome. The site is loaded right now too, by the way. I think I have to take a screenshot of the website at some point and run that because we have got so many books up there now. We've got Until I Die, Time Trader, Kingdom of Tundo, McBride and Groom. The library just keeps growing, and it's all free. So you just go read it. Like you can't beat that. I don't know. You can't beat free in my world.
No, you can't. I've tried to
do
free, and free is really strong and won't be defeated.
Yeah,
it refuses to go down.
Free's pretty solid. Pretty solid. All right.
Okay.
When we come back, do you know what else is free? Well, it's actually not because you have to pay for Disney Plus. The finale of Obi Wan Kenobi. We've got some San Diego ComicCon news. We've got some Top Gun news, and some Lightyear news that I'm sure the folks at Pixar wish was not the news. So we will do our Rogue reactions when we come back. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. I love this segment. We kind of go around and see all the cool pop culture stuff that we can react to, and we call this Rogue Reactions. And really, it's now officially summer, right? Like it wasn't actually summer prior to this, even though Memorial Day is like the unofficial kickoff of summer. This is now the first official day of summer, so we've had a lot of content so far to kind of react to. And
a lot of holdover stuff from the last 2 years. That's all kind of mashing up and banging into each other, man. I mean, the Umbrella Academy dropped today.
What? It did?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
No.
Season 3. Yeah.
Get out of here.
It's up there already.
When did that happen?
Today.
Oh, I get it, but like, when did they even see? Netflix is so.
No, I've known it was coming. I've seen advertisements for it, but it's not. Netflix doesn't blitz.
No, they really just kind of. I mean, see, Netflix got to get on the ball of promoting. They're not very good at promoting.
Well, I think they felt they were above it because they were the biggest game in town. But I mean, in lieu of recent news, people are starting to scrutinize their practices.
Well, I mean, here's the thing, right? When Netflix first came out. Yeah, obviously they were the only game in town, and they were doing something very innovative. But that's the problem when you innovate, is that other people are going to be like, "Hey, look what those people are doing. Let's do what they do." And then they're also, I believe you. You don't have to show me your phone. I believe you. I literally just Googled it, and it dropped. Like, look at that.
Yeah. I almost started watching it last night, but it was Obi Wan time.
So yeah, exactly.
I had to take care of that business.
Well, we got our topic of discussion for next week now. Look at that now.
Yes, we do. All
do. Right.
But yeah, absolutely. I don't know what's up with them. I don't claim to be a marketing expert by any stretch of the imagination, so I'm not gonna like judge anybody on that basis. But and I have seen advertisements for season 3 of the Umbrella Academy, but mostly on YouTube. I haven't seen it mainstream, so I don't know what's going on. But it dropped. I mean, people already have their opinions about it. This, that, or the other. About I very much enjoyed season 2. I thought it was superior to the first season.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So, but now people who really like season 2 are saying season 3 may or may not be up to snuff. I'll find out. I'll be the judge of that myself.
At what point do you listen to the punditry before you actually see, like, or do you soak in the punditry before?
I do not, but I will listen to non-spoiler reactions of things.
Okay.
People do non-spoiler reviews, which I don't do because people tend to spoil. Because I mean, look, if you know stories, if you know cinematic or sequential storytelling, as we do for comic books and all this other stuff, some information is really detrimental to your ability to immerse yourself into it, because basically how. You know how these pieces fit, how they go together, right? So if someone says, "Oh, there's a great big revelation in Act 3 of whatever," you could watch it for about 10, 15 minutes and figure out what that revelation may or may not be. So I tend not to listen to in-depth reviews, even though they claim to not be spoilerish. Yeah. But there are times where people come around and say, "Hey, I did see it. It's pretty great. I think it's up to snuff with this and that, and you should see it." Or someone saying, "I don't know, it kind of falls short of season 2. I'll listen to that, but I don't necessarily listen to in-depth, deep dives or dissections of whatever this stuff is. See, even for Top Gun, I mean, how complicated could Top Gun have been as a story, right? But I wouldn't listen to any of these non-spoiler reviews because they give away too much. They would tell you too much about Goose's son, or tell you too much about what the mission is about, or there's a sad moment in the middle.
Right. All it takes is one one comment that doesn't appear to be very threatening to what the story is going to be, and I can like I said, my brain starts working on that one comment. Goes, like it's like a virus almost.
That's what I'm saying. And it won't leave you alone. So that's why I usually don't. And that's why we've got moments of contention between the two of us, because that's why I don't like to speculate on things, because my mind will just finish the puzzle, and then that's there's nothing wrong with speculation. There's nothing wrong with that. That's how people make their bread and butter. It's fun. It gets interaction for the source material, for the content. People, people trend about it. They tweet
Mhm.
about it. They Instagram, all that stuff. But for me personally, it's like I won't good at it. I'm just like a dog on a bone with that kind of stuff. If I hear,
Yeah.
oh, there's a revelation in episode 5 that will knock your socks off, then I'm like,
Yeah.
what could that possibly be? And then
Right.
that's it.
That's it. You go down the rabbit hole and you're
yeah,
done.
it's ruined. So that's like a personal thing. But having that been said, the very brief scuttlebutt on season 3 of the Umbrella Academy is it's not quite at season 2 caliber. So we'll see.
I'll be the judge.
We'll look at it ourselves.
So let's talk Obi Wan for a second. Now, how spoilery do you want to get with this? I'm openly asking. We could have done this in the production meeting beforehand, but I chose to want to discuss it on air with you because it's a good question.
Have you seen it?
I have.
Erin hasn't seen any of it. So, do you want to
wait? She hasn't seen any of it, or she hasn't seen the last episode?
According to her, before in the production meeting, she hasn't seen any of it.
Erin is our producer now. See now, okay.
So,
that's
do we want to be respectful of her, or is that her fault for not doing homework?
That's her own fault for not watching any of it. I mean, at this point, even I've seen 6 episodes. That's Erin lost her Disney Plus access. Well, she's not going to see it anyway then, so we can definitely spoil.
That's basically her saying you don't pay her enough. That's what she's basically telling.
I don't pay anybody. That's the best part.
Well, that's why she's not on Disney Plus.
If this was a Sire Studios jam, that's a different story. This is a Rogue Matter jam. I don't pay the bills in Rogue Matter.
We could be spoiler-ish. I mean, look, here's the thing. There can't be too many things that happen.
Right.
Because almost everybody in the story has to be alive for future stories, right?
Yes.
So,
which is again one of my gripes with a series like this, not the actual series, but just a series like this. It was the gripe with Black Widow. It feels like you're watching something that you might have missed, like, oh, when I was busy watching the prequels, or when I was busy, watching the actual thing, I must have missed this. And it fits in nicely with all that stuff, but at the same time, what's the level of, like. We know Darth Vader can't die. We know Obi Wan can't die. We know Luke and Leia can't die. Like, I mean, I'm not giving anything away. That's exactly.
And I agree with you. But I mean, death is not the only terrible thing that can happen to a character. So,
right.
I mean, that's lowest common denominator of things that cannot happen. But if a story is intricate enough, or written well enough, which is point of contention for a lot of people,
right?
The ramifications for some characters can be really deep. So, your mileage varies.
I'm going to say 3 things about it. One, you like to be very simple with your reactions. Did you like it or not like it? I can't do that. I have to go and I have to give you my layered onion response to it, because there are some things I like about it, just like in anything in life, right? There's, the internet is not, the internet is zeros and ones, binary choices and things like that, but we're not. Like, there are some things I liked about it, some things I didn't like about it, and I'll go into detail about what I liked about both and what I didn't like about the show. But that's the first thing. One, definitely not something where I'm reading some. I read some reactions, and everyone seems to be generally thumbs up about it. But I'm very curious for the, when that initial euphoria subsides, when you start actually picking it apart, like what people's reactions are going to be to it.
Right.
2. I think they did a nice job by the end, for me, of not ruining the continuity between the prequels and the original trilogy. That was one of my fears. Remember it that we talked about?
Yeah.
I think the ending with Leia, with Obi-Wan, he just, again, all he had to do was say something like, will I ever see you again? No, that'd be dangerous for both of us. And it, I don't know. There was something in the way it was presented where I'm like, okay, this jives. She's gonna, when she gives the message, she's not gonna bring this whole thing up at all. 10 years later, or whenever, whatever we determine the length of time that happened between, Kid Leia and Leia that we know in New Hope. So. It was enough for me. Like I said, they didn't need much. They just needed to address it. They needed to address, like, Princess Leia can't bring up that she knows Obi Wan Kenobi. Great, done. Great, you filled a gap in there. Another thing they did, which I thought was really nice for me. I'm not going to say they redeemed the prequels for me in any way, shape, or form. They redeemed, and this is very subjective. This is not a universal, like you all feel this way, and I feel like you should feel this way. This is just for me. Anakin versus Darth Vader, like they did a nice job to me of having, for me, reconciling that is actually Anakin behind the Darth Vader costume. Because to me, it's, even by the end of the prequels, I was like, I have a hard time believing that it's this kid, because he just, I don't know. It just, they never synced up to me. But in this, I thought they did a nice job of reconciling that for me. And last thing I'll say about it, and this is, I'm actually on your train of thought right now. This needed to be way more than 6 episodes, because the payoffs didn't hit. It felt very Game of Thronesy in the sense that it felt very rushed, and it felt rushed, just in terms of like the payoffs. Like this last episode, I thought the pacing was very, very good for the first 4 or 5 episodes, but then midway through 5 and 6, like I almost felt like, all right, at the end of episode 5, this is spoiler, but 5 is not the one that just aired today. It has Reva gets laser, gets lightsabered. She's basically dying. She stumbles across the message, regarding Luke, and immediately, now this is the spoiler part, immediately she's like there, like in episode 6, and I'm like, wait a minute, like how long was the Empire chasing Obi-Wan? How did she get over there so fast? And I guess light speed travel just, it just ain't what it used to be. It almost felt like in Game of Thrones, where they would all of a sudden, they would spend seasons crossing, bodies of water. And then in the last season, it's like, no, we need him to be over. We need him to be over in Winterfell. Boom, he's in Winterfell. We need him over in King's Landing. Boom, he's in King's Landing. That's, to me,
no, Lightspeed's always been like that for Star Wars, though. Like, I mean, Luke left Hoth and was suddenly on Dagobah, and then was suddenly at Cloud City.
Yeah.
In the course of the events that were taking place on Cloud City with Han.
Yeah.
With the interrogation, and then him being frozen. And then, Luke shows up 5 minutes later. And then, so it's always been fast and loose with reality, or with the,
right.
With the time. They've never really locked it down how long it takes to, or whether you could track people through it, or, all that other nonsense,
right.
So, I mean, I get what you're saying about that. And I agree with you. But,
yeah, show's over. Thanks, guys. Been fun.
Yeah.
Let's get out.
Yeah. Well, these shows
end it now. It now.
These fast shows, man. They take a lot out of me.
Yeah.
I agree. I can't really disagree with any of the criticisms that I've heard about it. For an extended amount of time, yeah, it's too short. As you've said, as I've always said, like, it's too short. The episodes are too short. It's kind of short shrift. Somewhere I heard, and I don't know if this is true. This is probably not a verifiable truth, but yeah, Aaron.
We're laughing because Aaron was actually, our producer was like, "Do I end the show now? Do I actually end the show now?" No, we were just kidding. That was sarcasm. This time.
Supposedly the budget was lower than, say, Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian. And in some places, it did look a little cheap.
Yes, I agree with you.
And always when you have a situation where people come to a thing, go away from that thing, and then come back to that thing, you're like, well, we could have done this the first time you came to this thing. It's kind of like in Raiders of the Lost Ark. If Indiana Jones finds the idol, and then the guy takes the idol, then Indiana Jones finds the idol again, and he runs away with the idol. It's like, why didn't we do this in Act 1 so that we could have enough time for the arc, to find the arc? So,
right.
Whenever that happens, you kind of, it always brings up thoughts of pacing. Obi-Wan and Vader have a fight in the beginning, and then that fight kind of weirdly ends.
Yeah.
And then there's more running, and then Obi-Wan stops to confront Vader later.
Right.
So I get it.
Yeah.
I bottom line, it harkens back to a conversation we had 20 years ago when you were in my office at Wizard railing against Attack of the Clones. And I said, yeah, I understand you think it's bad. I just don't care. And so, like, I understand that people think that Obi-Wan is bad or has all these, impediments and stuff like that. I just don't care. It was good to see. I enjoyed seeing it. I enjoyed that they added a little more nuance, a little more meat to the parts in between the movies.
Yes.
One thing I seriously enjoyed, and this is so obscure. I wonder if I should even. It's so weird. It's so niche. At the end of the sixth episode, when Obi-Wan decides that Vader is no longer Anakin anymore, he calls him Darth.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is what I wanted to happen in the prequels at the end of Revenge of the Sith, because he does refer to Vader as Darth in A New Hope.
Right.
And you figure if these guys are old companions.
Yes.
And he's constantly trying to reach this guy, he wouldn't call him Darth. He would have called him Anakin.
Correct.
In the Death Star. But Anakin didn't exist at that time. The name Anakin hadn't been introduced into the zeitgeist at that time. So it was conceivable at that time that his name was Darth Vader. It wasn't a title. It was his name. So when he referred to him as Darth in this, I was like, wow, I just got what I wanted from 2005 all the way back in 2005.
Yes, so, that goes to what I was saying too. I thought it did a nice job, like you said, for me, in reconciling little things in between the movies and
Star Wars is always going to be, I think, whatever supplemental Star Wars material we get from now on, it's always going to be, a victory by inches, not miles. Unless someone comes along. I mean, Taika Waititi supposedly doing his Star Wars movie. Unless someone comes along and completely flips the script on the Star Wars narrative and just kind of renews interest in in new Star Wars, in the new potentials of Star Wars, and stops, and this is said with love, because I love the material that we've been getting so far. But instead of picking up the bones of the original carcass of Star Wars, then we're always only going to win by inches in these things. We're only going to get moments of really greatness in things like Book of Boba Fett. We're only going to get moments of the old greatness, like, Luke Skywalker's hallway scene at the end of Mandalorian season 2, or Luke training Grogu, in Book of Boba Fett. And those 2 episodes of just 2 wayward episodes of Book of Boba Fett that were more Mandalorian than Boba Fett. It's fine for me. But it may not. I acknowledge it's not good enough for other people. It's fine for me. These little incremental pieces where I can now, imply the puzzle together while watching the other materials, the larger materials, the movies and reading books. I can put all this supplemental material in the middle and understand that the story is more broad now. But I get that it's not enough for other people. May not be enough for new people. It certainly isn't enough for the old fans, and the old fans are the meanest, nastiest of the bunch, right? And they don't feel that they're being catered to in the right way anymore. I can't tell them that they're wrong. I can't say that they're not correct, but I don't think that the franchise should be wasting a lot of time catering to people like us. I think it should, if for
here's the thing with
for
catering,
its own survival, right? I think it should be looking for new people and new things to do.
It's not a question of catering. It's a question of catering to what has come before. I think that's really what it comes down to. And this is for me, all right? I'm just speaking for myself, right? Like, I think that personally, when I'm catering, like what I'm expecting, which then comes off as, well, it wasn't fan service, or, oh, they're not catering to you. These aren't made for you. It's like, no. If you start,
okay.
I'm just speaking for myself.
All right.
If you start a storyline, or a character, acts a certain way, and then 5 years, 10 years, 20 years goes by, and and then you start the story up again. I'm expecting still, I don't care if that time has passed. I'm expecting you to carry on what you started. I'm not expecting you to, go 180 based off of, what you feel like at the time or what influences you at the time through something that I've already invested my time in. And it's not a question of I've invested my time in, so you deserve to cater to me. It's I've invested my time in this story. I expect this story to continue in a way that doesn't feel that it's completely off the rails or going somewhere, because then at that point, then I do feel upset, because I'm like, well, then, if you were just going to end up trashing the story or trashing the characters or reinventing it on a whim, Last Jedi, I'm not going to have the same. I'm going to be pissed. And then you could sit there and be like, well, it's your fault. You're pissed. It's like, no, it's your fault for not taking what had come before and going in a logical course.
Hold on. Let me set the record straight. I never said. First of all, I said I understood why people were upset. I understand it. I don't feel as upset as they do, but I understand it. That's A. B. We're not talking legacy characters, right? I don't believe they betrayed Obi-Wan in the show. I don't believe they betrayed Leia. I don't believe they really betrayed Anakin or Vader, depending on what your perspective is. What I'm more referring to is, like, Boba Fett was a one-note character. He had 5 lines in the entire, So, I mean, there's the talk about that they betrayed his character. It's like,
No.
he didn't have a character. You have to invent a character for him.
Yeah.
Right? So that's new ground you have to break.
Correct.
Right? Mandalorian, didn't even exist, until they did it. Now everyone's universal about Mandalorian. People love Mandalorian. So keep up the good work on that. But I do think that when it comes to, what I mean by not catering to the fans is that they have to stop picking off the carcass of what came before it. We got to get away from the Skywalker saga. We got to get away from Tatooine. We got to get away from, the Empire and the Rebellion. And there are other parts of
Tatooine is to Star Wars like The Woods was to Walking Dead.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. And it's like, The Walking Dead, I don't even go down that rabbit hole. But
no, I'm just making that analogy because it's the same thing. My dad and I would watch Walking Dead religiously, not anymore, obviously, and it's the last season and everything. But we'd always laugh because for the most part, 90% of that show was in the woods because it was just easier to film.
Yeah, because you know why? If that show took place in the desert, there'd be no peril because you could see walkers from 50 miles away, and you're like, all right, it's time for us to leave. So, there's no jump scares in the desert, or in wide open spaces. And there's more wide open spaces in America than there are in dense woods or in urban environments, urban environments.
But it's the same thing with Star Wars. It's like everything's taking place in Tatooine because it's just what's easy to film.
And all of it has to get away from that. And then look, it might have to do it to the extent where even I don't enjoy it anymore. But I think for this franchise to survive, it's going to have to get away from us, and that's what I'm talking about. It's going to have to get away from the gatekeepers and the judgmental types, and it's going to have to forge its new ground and find brand new. Young, because the young people what kept Star Wars alive since 1977.
Yeah,
and it's gonna have to do that. It's gonna have to look for new young people. Right now, the way it's going, it's not really recruiting more young people. It's catering to us, and it's not gonna survive if it keeps doing that.
Well, you know what I thought was interesting though too, because I thought about that. I thought about in this show. I said, "Boy, this really is catering," and in many sense now it's catering to the last 20 years too, because it has. Anybody who enjoyed the prequels or grew up with the prequels, this is like a series for them, right? Like The Mandalorian is more of a series for us because it focuses more on the original trilogy.
I'm a prequel fan, so both of them were.
No, I get it, but generationally wise, right? Like I know you particular, you're maybe an exception to the rule, but like Mandalorian is more for our generation of Star Wars fans. But I could see this being both, right? So it's that unique bridge series of this will cater to the original trilogy fans and it'll cater to the prequel fans. But to your point of building it on, I actually thought to myself, I was like, boy, if my son, who still hasn't gotten through episode 4, by the way, Goonies, big thumbs up, got through that in one night. Episode 4, he enjoyed, but he was enjoying. At first he was too young for it. Then he was enjoying it, but basically, got nowhere with it. And I refused to have him watch episode 1 first. So But I just thought to myself, I'm like, I wonder if then you watch this series in between. Like if you were to start it at episode 1 and move up, like, do you watch this in the middle? You know, and the next generation that's watching, I think is going to get just as much out of these kind of shows. So actually, to disagree with your point, only because the nature of streaming now, there is an eternal present. There is no past. There is no future because everything exists simultaneously now, to the point where I wonder, and I could be wrong, but this is just my thought. I'm like, no, you know what? They're going to enjoy it just as much, just a little differently.
Well, with
because the stories are still good.
With the inception of home media, that pretty much was the same with
Yeah.
the movies, right? It doesn't, but you still have to.
It was different.
What our people of our generation started to discover in their dislike of the prequels were that the generation of kids who grew up with the prequels were adults now, and they were like, no,
right,
this is our Star Wars, right?
Right.
Which is what that generation will discover when the sequel kids grow up, right? So what I'm saying is, Star Wars survives by recruiting by the Star Wars youth, and so if it gets bogged down constantly giving us supplemental material for Star Wars of the past without forging Star Wars of the new, it will kind of fall apart. And the model has proven this out.
Sure.
If Star Wars was only those first 3 movies from 1977 to 1983, it would be gone by now, right? There would be no Clone Wars cartoons or animated series. There'd be no Anakin Skywalker. There'd be no Hayden Christensen. There'd be no Ewan McGregor. There'd be no Ahsoka. There'd be no. I mean, all the things that are keeping it, that they're potentially keeping it going, would not exist if it didn't realize that it needed to reinvent itself. And we are at a choke point now where it's going to need to reinvent itself yet again, because even the sequels were not a reinvention of Star Wars.
That's the irony too about the sequels, right? I mean, I think we've gone on record many times, and I've gone on record saying The Force Awakens I thought was really, really good up until Han Solo appeared on screen.
Because it went backwards. It can't go backwards. It always has to go forward.
What Jurassic
The Mandalorian is going forward.
Right.
But everything else since then has been going backwards.
Right.
I will make allowances for Book of Boba Fett, because Boba Fett was not a real character. So 3-dimensionalizing Boba Fett is going forward.
Yeah.
I loved Obi-Wan. I don't mind seeing what happened in between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. I don't mind it, but it is kind of, if it's not going backwards, it's a standstill.
Yeah.
It's not going forward or backwards. It's standing still. So I just think it needs to break new ground.
All right. Real quick, let's go around a couple more reactions to some stuff that's not Star Wars, but that was pretty cool in general, and maybe we'll do a trailer Truth or Trash. Although next week now we can't do that. Now we have to do Umbrella Academy.
We can still do a trailer Truth or Trash. I'm pretty sure you will not have seen the entirety of the Umbrella Academy by next week.
You know what? I dig that show though, so it's possible. It's possible. I got a shot. We'll see. There's no movies coming out this weekend.
We'll see. So. We have you on record saying it's a maybe.
It is, we'll right. Top Gun Maverick, just like you were mentioning, tops Doctor Strange 2 as highest grossing film of 2022. And it's shaping up to be an incredible year for Paramount Pictures because it's got a bunch of successful movies. But Top Gun 2. I guess the real headline of it, right, is the fact that the comic book, the Marvel formula. Now, Doctor Strange, again, is not the premier Marvel character. But now that we're post Tony Stark and we're post Chris Evans, post Robert Downey Jr., the heavyweights that carry the Marvel universe at this point, we might start seeing more of this. I didn't look at it as a shot at Marvel Studios or their dominance, more as I was excited that something non-comic book was actually worth going to the theater for to see, even though it happened to also be a sequel. At least that's the way I looked at it. I thought this was a win for Top Gun, not a loss for Marvel. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. But I've seen a bunch of movies that have not been comic book related in the theater. So I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's kind of a nothing burger for me, because anything that I really want to see, I just go see. You know? It's both a good thing and a kind of a bad thing. You know, if we're looking at it from the MCU perspective, anytime someone breaks your monopoly, it's not a great thing. You know, even though it's a good thing for the genre and it's a good thing for the industry in and of itself. But I mean, you know, if they are as great as they think they are, as great as we think that they are, if they as great as they used to be, that they can take the competition. We'll see.
Yeah. On that same bandwagon note, Miss Marvel debuts with lowest viewership for an MCU series. This is from Heroic Hollywood as well. The latest series from Marvel Studios collected only 775,000 U.S. households in the first 5 days. This puts Miss Marvel below Hawkeye's 1.5 million, which was previously the lowest viewed premiere for a live-action MCU series. The article does go on and ask the question, is it because they also dropped Obi Wan the exact same time? And I got to almost say it's a little bit of a combination of, you know, little column A, little column B thing. Miss Marvel is a very obscure character, does not have a huge history with Marvel. So folks like us, I mean, unless you lived at a comic book store and got access to free comics constantly, probably wasn't on, you know, it's not something we're necessarily having on our pull list all the time right now. It's a relatively, you know, it's a teen skewing character in general. So demographic wise, I think it had an uphill battle, but I do think put that also that you're competing against, you know, Obi Wan, which is who doesn't know, you know, that's got 60 years worth of or 50 years worth of, you know, 45 plus years of potential fandom behind. Yeah, I think it's gonna, you know, get lost in the crowd of this streaming release schedule.
I mean, it was out before I even knew it was out. You know, it was coming out. I didn't even know it was going to be a thing, so they didn't even really advertise it. It's weird. It's the same as what you were saying about the Umbrella Academy. So
yeah,
I mean, but like it's all there in perpetuity, right? Just like you were saying about the, you know, the supplemental materials for Star Wars. Like it's all there now. So we'll see. You know,
and
it might make up for it in the aggregate.
Finally, here's the cool part. This is great news. A She-Hulk promotional Comic-Con banner spotted in San Diego. It looks like She-Hulk will have a big presence at Comic-Con. After its hiatus due to the pandemic, Comic-Con is looking to make its return in July. With the world's most popular convention making its triumphant return, some exciting new promotional material has popped up. They posted on Twitter, the official San Diego Comic-Con Twitter account at @comic_con. Hey, look, just like Rogue_Matter. We're back. SDCC 2022. Amazon is sending Lord of the Rings there as well too. So that's been announced as well too. It will have a presence in San Diego Comic-Con. So it looks like things are getting back to pre-pandemic excitement in terms of the Comic-Con universe. Now we'll see if the fans follow. I know I will be there, so I'm just thrilled. I'm thrilled to spend 3-4 days in San Diego, soaking up some sun and seeing some old friends and checking out what people are kind of excited about. But it's good. It's good news. It's just what it means. Right now, the last few years, we've had a lot of things where, you know, you had DC Fandom, you have Disney's, you know, D23, you know, that kind of stuff where they're hosting their own conventions. So it doesn't mean Comic-Con's going to last forever and it's going to be this big thing, but it's good to see the studios, even Marvel too, putting some juice back into.
I think everybody needs to.
Show. What's that?
I think everybody needs to.
Yeah.
So good for them.
I can't wait. It's gonna be great. I'm gonna sit by a pool for 3 days. I mean, I'm gonna do work if my wife is listening. I'm gonna be busy, very busy. Very, very busy. All right. When we come back, Until I Die, it is the next big thing from Rogue Matter. It is here. It is launched, and we've got the creator, Jason Sterr, on to discuss it. Awesome dude. Interesting guy. What a past. What a history he's got. That is coming up next. Welcome back to the Rogue Wave podcast. Thrilled to have fellow Rogue Matter creator Jason Sterr on the show. Jason, how you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. How about you?
Doing good, doing good. I know you're battling some COVID-related illness, so we thank you for braving through, making it on the show. I mean, Hassan's always battling something. It's usually just me, so
Yeah, and that ailment never goes away. So,
no, I know. I unlike herpes, I always stick around here.
Wow. All right.
We went there.
Behind my screen.
So, Jason, you are the creator of Until I Die, which just launched on Rogue Matter today, and was really exciting. I was one of the first to get to read it at Rogue Matter, and instantly fell in love with it. We talked a little bit about it at our last segment, but give us your elevator pitch for what the series is.
Yeah. So basically, it's a play on my love for the movies back in Frank Sinatra days, where you've got the Rat Pack, you've got big band music blasting. That was my grandfather kind of raised me and my brother on, and having been in the military for a couple of years, it was one of those things where, all right, if we're really going to have worldwide assassins, what better to get behind enemy lines than with celebrities, people who they want to come in.
Yeah.
So the original crossover sensation, I guess you could say. Musician, actor, hitman, why not?
So tell us a little bit about your background. So you mentioned you're in the military. How long have you been in there? I know you recently almost went out to Poland. I mean, you're actually like in the thick of it right now.
So right now, I've been promoted to squadron commander, so I don't get to go do a lot of the fun stuff anymore. I am now effectively human relations.
Okay.
So HR now. I've been doing this for August will make 14 years.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been active duty, I've been with the reserves, and now I'm with the Illinois Air National Guard. So stationed in Peoria, Illinois now. So it's been several different continents, done a lot of fun things, seen a lot of fun things, seen a lot of not so fun things. But it's been a blast.
How does one go from a transition from being in the military to also being a comic book creator?
My dad taught me to read with comic books. I was always the outdoor kid. I didn't want to be inside doing anything educational. And it was one of those things where if I learned to read, he would buy me Spider-Man comic books or Fantastic Four comic books. And it just kind of went from there.
What's your favorite one out of the ones you just mentioned, or anything else in general?
So I think Ed Brubaker's Winter Soldier series by far, to me, it was flawless. I love like my favorite books are the Tom Clancy, Jack Ryan books. Obviously, the show I'm a huge fan of. So the whole espionage angle, political intrigue, and Winter Soldier was my jam.
Okay, very cool, very cool. All right, so Until I Die. Now again, what's our catchphrase tonight? All the likenesses are coincidental. Legally.
Totally.
Legally, this is not Frank Sinatra. This is somebody else. Very close to. It could be someone like that in that era. So it's a fictionalized character. But
at a passing glance, it might be. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Whackos.
So he's basically kind of he's talking about his life, like you mentioned, who when he was a famous 50s era, 60s era celebrity, going in and doing these kind of things. How much what I actually, it's two things I love about this though. It's a great comic one, but it's also, I love that it's seeped in the history of the time period. How much research did you dive into to do the history? We have the JFK assassinations coming up in a later later issue. There's a lot of again, a lot of history of that era. Like, how much of a history buff are you? How much research did you have to do? Like what was the prep work to go into this?
One of the classes that I ended up taking when I was I was a captain, I think. They talked to us. It was an anti-terrorism class, and one of the things they want to talk to us about. All right, you're the terrorist. Imagine how you would inflict whatever damage in any given area. And one of the things that I did was I started researching back CIA, Google missions, nothing classified, something. Any PDF that's sitting there floating on CNN or Time. And that kind of made me realize how many political assassinations took place in the 1960s. It was, I mean, the entire decade was up for grabs for anybody who had, you know, the time, the money, and the resources, or just the will. So probably that class, plus what actually they had the outline of the story, probably about a year's worth of research.
Wow. Wow. And then for your artist, working with your artist, you know, in your scripts, like how detailed were your scripts for him to know and to kind of pick everything up, or did he kind of just pick up, you know, very, very easily off of what you were providing him?
Yosem's incredibly talented. So he and I knew each other for a little bit before we actually decided to work together on this project. But anytime I write something, when it's a graphic novel, I try to give the artist as a creator too. So I want to give them as free space as they can. I'll give them, hey, this is what I want to happen. How it looks, that's all you tell. There are certain scenes where I'll say, hey, look, in my head, this is what I got. Convince me otherwise, but this is kind of what I'm thinking. But for the most part, probably 95%, I try and leave that up to the artist.
Oh, that's good. All right. I mean, because I mean, it's something like that. Sometimes I think you feel like I feel like as a writer, I have to be very detailed, you know, with certain things, and then other things, it's like fight scene, you know, go to town, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But something like this, I mean, it's very, like I said, very historical in nature. So it's got, you know, it's got that. One of the other things I loved about the book too, you have a very good sense of rhythm when it comes to a story. And another writer, a friend of mine, she and I would always talk about it, and she would always almost, you know, correlate writing with a dance. Like it's almost like you're dancing, like the dialogue is dancing and you're dancing to a crescendo. And I feel like each issue has that dance to it. Talk to us about your writing style. Like when you get into it, like how do you you know, how does your process work?
So for me, I know how George Lucas explained it when he wrote Jones. He had all these scenes from old movies that he loved that he wanted to try and tell a story around. One of the things that I've always had long drives for whatever reason. And I'll have hypothetical conversations as one character, and that'll be for, you know, I don't know how many times I've put myself in an issue of Captain America or Daredevil, and, you know, I'm Matt and I'm having an argument with Foggy, or, you know, just to keep my, you know, for 5 hours ride, get to do something, right?
Yeah.
And I'll record myself on my phone building dialogue, because to me, dialogue is it's going to make or break anything, you know, when a graphic novel, because you don't read the description of a scene, you see, you read the dialogue, you understand communication between the characters. So for me, dialogue is by far the most important thing. So I always focus on the tone of the character first. Who are they when they say what they say? Are they upfront? Are they, you know, take it or leave it kind of guy like Steve Rogers, or are they, you know, Tony Stark, where you never know if he's messing with you? Is he being a dick, or is he being a playful dick? You know, you don't really. So that's, once I understand the character's tone of who they are, that's where I work from. So trying to understand the individual's perspective first.
When you you know, again, I mean, I asked the question a little bit earlier, but like, you know, being a writer, like I always wanted to do comics, so I went to art school. Like, you know, you ended up in the military. Like, you know, at what point did you say, you know what, I need to do this now. I need to write. I need to do something, or was it just something you were always thinking about?
I've always written. It was one of those things where I remember in 8th grade, I wrote a 3-chapter take on James Bond having a kid. You remember the old show James Bond Jr.?
Yes.
Hassan would know. Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody remembers that show. Nobody remembers that show.
Hassan would know. He would know.
I used to love that show. And so I started writing it was, to call it a novel is an insult to anybody who can actually type. But yeah, I tried my hand at writing a novel about James Bond's kid as opposed to his nephew when I was in 8th grade. So I've been playing with characters and words for as long as I can remember.
Is this the first time you put pen to paper, or put some money behind it, you know, so to speak, and actually put something down that was professionally done, or is there other stuff you have?
No, a couple of years ago, I put out through Action Labs, a book called The Consultant.
Okay.
And for that one called The Consultant Quid Pro Quo. Full disclosure, I am a mainstream superhero reader. So I read The Boys, and this was before the show came out. And I remember as soon as that came out, I just kept getting mocked by all of my friends who actually read indie comics. How many times have you read The Boys? I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about, dude.
Yeah.
And I read it, and I'm like, oh my God, Garth Ennis is going to sue me.
Oh man. Yeah. I can't even tell you how many times I've created something and then like years later it's like becomes like a show or becomes like a premise or something like that. And I'm always like, it's just coincidental. I mean, it just, it just was. It is what it is.
There's really only like 12 stories in literature. It just keeps getting flipped around and played different ways.
Yep.
So you're gonna have repeats and overlap.
And you can't ever beat anybody with satire. Someone's already satired just about everything. So and as it pertains to The Boys, I mean, this is not the first time nor the last time we're gonna see something like that. So no one's ripping anybody off, really.
I think it's more along the lines of who can come up with the most successful mockumentary of Superman that you can get. I mean, that's just what.
I had a creative writing professor. He was always like, it's like you said. He's like, there's only 5 stories. It's not like what you tell. It's how you tell it. That's the difference. Like how you tell it is going to be the differential, between you and somebody else. Essentially with what they're putting out there. Now let me ask you a question, because you're a mainstream superhero guy. And you're into a lot of the different genres too, that it's not just superheroes, but it's kind of espionage and all this other stuff. Comic-Cons, how many have you been to, and what are you dressing up as?
I'm dressed up for one. I usually wear, so I have an Iron Fist t-shirt, I have a Fantastic Four t-shirt, and that's me dressed up.
You go civilian. I like that. I can't dress up at these things. Yeah.
Well, I went to New York Comic Con once, and I want to say it was October, but it was like 90 degrees. Felt like.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's about October in New York City now.
Yeah, and you've got these kids running around in like 18 different layers. I'm like, you're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're gonna. It's like, how are you even enjoying the actual convention?
That's what they're there for. They're there to dress. Like, it's amazing to us. So Hassan and I started at Wizard magazine together many years ago. I don't know if you're a fan of Wizard. Yeah, this is going way back. Every month. Yeah. Oh yeah. No, we were. I ran the website for them, and then I was in research. So I was both upstairs and downstairs, whatever. And Hassan was upstairs. There was always the upstairs was corporate. The downstairs was like the magazine. It was pretty good. But we grew up with the conventions, right? So when Wizard World would come out and things like that, we would travel to all the conventions. Hassan was security. We have lots of great stories from our Wizard days. But the people that attended was your typical comic book fan. It was your typical like comic book nerd, a lot of like overweight Spider-Mans everywhere. Like that's what it was in the 2000s. And then I remember around 2012 or so, things started to kind of shift, and all of a sudden lot more girls were there. A lot of them were actually instead of being dragged along by their boyfriends, were dragging their boyfriends along. Like you would almost see. And then in the mid 2010s, like that's where it was like cosplay just became like a huge, I think it's like 50% of the shows now. Do you think it was that late? Because I feel like it was closer to the actual release of the first Iron Man. It could be, yeah. It could be. It's all blur now. I feel like a crossover movie where it took us from, I remember watching Batman Forever in a theater of like 8 people, and then going to see Iron Man, and it was like, there is not an empty seat anywhere around. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what a difference. What a difference the MCU has made now. In everything that we're into now. I mean, it's crazy. It really is crazy. And we used to be, it used to be almost kind of like your little secret.
We were the fringes,
right?
And now it's all mainstream now.
Yeah.
One question that's slightly to the side of what you were talking about. I know you said Brubaker's Winter Soldier is your favorite. How do you think the movie stacked up? I know it's a controversial question. So the actual Captain America Winter Soldier movie, I really dug. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I find kind of a letdown, just in regards to Bucky Barnes, because
It's like when you play Street Fighter 2 and you got M. Bison and you're playing as Ryu and you get to him and he's impossible to beat. That's Winter Soldier fighting Captain America. And then when you play Street Fighter 2 Turbo and Bison's a playable character, he's freaking atrocious. Like he can't do it. And Barnes is getting his ass kicked left and right. And I'm like, dude, you've been killing people for 50 years.
Yeah. 50 solid years.
And John Walker is whooping your ass. No. and you've got Falcon right there fighting alongside you.
And he's he's arguably got a better arm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
Like, yeah.
It's like they didn't even actually think this through. It's like, hey, you know what? We're gonna make this guy, we're gonna give him plot armor and no one's gonna question it. When like everybody who's ever read a comic book is like, question.
My big issue with Falcon and Winter Soldier was that Falcon and Winter Soldier were the least interesting characters in their own show. I felt like Baron Zemo was amazing. Even having Sharon Carter there was like she had a good storyline. Like everyone had a good plot line, except for Falcon and Winter Soldier. They seem to kind of be in the background for most of it. And then Falcon kind of stepped forward, which was good. But like you said, Winter Soldier, he could have been a cameo in that whole show.
It's so unpopular when I say it, but in all honesty, I don't even think John Walker was really a villain. Like I understood exactly why he did what he did. I mean, anybody who's served and you watch your boy go down like that, sorry, I'm coming for you.
Yeah, he was the villain just out of circumstance, right?
Exactly.
Because he was never Falcon was never supposed to give up the shield. So it was supposed to be they used John Walker to show why he shouldn't have given the shield up. But that's an extreme. I mean, you give up the shield and some guy's using it as a tray, for dinner. That's just as acceptable as he doesn't have to kill someone with it. That's a bit of an extreme. So but John Walker's not going anywhere. He's gonna be fine.
I'm really excited to go with this Thunderbolts thing.
Too.
I heard about that. Yeah, we'll see. Maybe see how it.
That squad. I don't know.
We'll see how it turns out when all is said and done. I know Young Avengers is also next up on the plate that they're really trying to establish and set up. So it's gonna be
Who's in? I missed that one. Is that we're talking Kate Bishop or?
Yeah.
You'll have Kate Bishop. You'll have Miss Marvel. You'll have the twins from WandaVision. They in the comics they become like I forget the names of the characters.
Wiccan and
Speed. Yeah. So you're gonna have essentially, they're definitely teeing that up at some point. I think everyone's kind of waiting to see that, and they have to. I mean, look, this is, although never say never. Even though Chris Evans recently was like, I'd rather play Johnny Storm than play, Captain America again. Never say never, but for the most part, as actors, they've moved on. They have to kind of, do what they can. All right. Last question. We're going to circle back to Until I Die. The first issue dropped today. What can fans expect throughout the course of the series itself?
Obviously, intrigue, murder, a little bit of music. I'm telling you, that was the best era of music. I know I'm making myself an old soul, but to me, that was the best era. Sammy Davis Jr. was king. No, it's if you want to understand how good people can do bad things and still be good people, and bad people can do good things and still be bad people. I think that's what you're going to see from this series.
Wow, that's ending the interview on a high note. I got to tell you.
Yeah, I'd like to say like thank you for the complexity of it. Like thank you for like the dense pages. Like you're not like a fly by night writer who who leaned on his artist. You like it's a read, But I don't mean that in a negative. I mean that as a total positive. Like I'm actually reading it. Like there's information and there's depth and there's complexity on each of these pages. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that.
You heard it here, guys. Go check out roguematter.com. Download the app on the iOS or Android phone. And Jason, it's been a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
When we come back, more Rogue Wave podcast. Want to thank our guest, Jason Sterr. Go check out Until I Die. It's on roguematter.com right now, or you can download the Rogue Matter app on the iOS or Google Play Store or wherever you get fine apps, or just go mobile. You can just type roguematter.com in on your phone and go read the first issue of Until I Die. There's also a ton of stuff up there. I mean, really, we're starting to really build a catalog, which is kind of exciting and neat to see. So, all right, next week, well, I just learned that next week we'll be talking Umbrella Academy. We've also potentially, Hassan, got one of the actors from The Sandlot coming on.
Oh, wow.
Very exciting. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Yeah, look at you. We'll see how that goes.
I know The Sandlot.
That's called a tease. That's called a tease.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. We'll see.
All right. We will see everyone next week.
Rogue Wave.
Hi guys, Mike Dolce here from the Rogue Wave podcast. If you like this video, please feel free to like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. It really helps us out. Leave a comment, let us know what you'd like to see in future episodes, and tune in every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern for a brand new episode of the Rogue Wave podcast.